Okay, we are live. I'm with Cache Canada and BikeLaneEnds today. We're going to be talking about geocaching.
Oh, that's not good.
You have to wait for your wife, or you want us to kick off?
No, go ahead.
All right. How'd you guys, Cache Canada? I'll get with you first, and then I'll go with Elle. How'd you get into geocaching and the whole YouTube thing?
How did we get into geocaching? It was something I had heard about. I was writing some material for the War of 1812 because we do reenacting for that time period, and I had seen a reference to it on a website that I went to that was had a cairn in somewhere in Ohio, and it was dealing with a small skirmish. And they said, oh, and it was for a website for motorcyclists that did road trips. And then it said somewhere near the cairn is a geocache if you're interested. And I go, a what? And so I looked it up, and it sounded really cool, but it just was beyond me at the time. And I just, no, I'm not going to deal with that. And then I think about 2 years later, and that might have been in 2008, somewhere around there. And then a friend of ours, which in reenacting, had started geocaching, and I thought, well, if she could do it, not that she's, no, she's a doctor, so she's pretty smart, but if she could do it, we gotta be able to do it. But we didn't have. I had a BlackBerry, so you couldn't do geocaching with a BlackBerry. You had to have a smartphone. I didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have a GPS. The only thing we had was a Garmin Nuvi that you use for your car. So I just Googled how to find coordinates with a Garmin Nuvi. I didn't know you could do that, but right there, it told you how to find coordinates. Okay, let's go find a cache. We found one, and we're like, hey, that's cool. Let's find another one. And that was 2012, April or October or something like that.
Yeah.
And we just took off from it. We did it slightly for about 6 months, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Well, once we got our smartphones, then it was so much easier to do.
Yeah.
So we did a lot more.
I took my BlackBerry out geocaching, and it got rained on, and then it stopped working. And then I said, yes, I could get a smartphone and make it a whole lot easier. Then we got the GPS unit, and then we started going from there.
That's a whole other story. And then his last phone, he was bending over. It was in his back pocket, and he bent over to find a geocache. And crack!
Snap the screen. Yeah. Never put your cell phone between your butt and your wallet in your back pocket and bend over. So I have a new phone, and I make sure I never put it in that pocket.
How did you guys get into the whole YouTube experience?
What's that? Sorry?
Into the YouTube experience.
Oh, YouTuber experience. It's been interesting. It took a while to get used to.
Yeah. We had well, I posted a lot on Facebook.
I'll be right back. Gotta get the dog.
That's the dog. I posted a lot on Facebook, and I would share where we traveled, and we travel a lot. We even traveled a lot before geocaching. And I would post pictures on whatever I would see, a stream or a river or a lake, something. I would post what I would call the water view of the day. I didn't do it every day, but a lot of people told me they lived vicariously through that, and they really enjoyed not only that, but our travels and what we did. So then I started watching some geocaching videos. I watched a little bit of Joshua Johnson, the geocaching vlogger, and I started to watch Katie. She had so much energy, and I saw everybody else. I saw you, Dan. I saw Hailmeister. I saw Neil Moore. And then I thought a lot of people at work would ask what geocaching was. So I thought, well, I could tell them. Maybe I could tell them in a video. If I could take pictures, I should be able to video something. I tried a couple times, and it was just horrible, and I just didn't sound right at all. And then one day I went kayaking with a group of friends. Karen wasn't there, but I thought I'm going to take the phone, and I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to point it at me, and I'm just going to go. I'm just going to do what I can. And then I created it's still up. I think it's listed as our second or third video. It wasn't too bad, but I just kept going. I just said, I'm just not going to stop. And then I started watching YouTube videos on how to do vlogging and stuff like that. And basically the idea is you just get over yourself, get over your voice, what you look like and what you sound like, and just go with it and just be yourself. And you see me, London Westie and Cache Canada tends to be a little more high energy, a little more comical, but that's me. when I really get excited, when I'm really passionate about something. So you're seeing me at my utmost high, without doing anything to get myself there. It's just a passion. So when people see me reenacting at camp, when I really get into a subject that really gets me going, you'll see that same energy that you see on Cache Canada in the reenacting camp. So.
Yep.
Now, did your wife have any objection to you making videos first, or was she all for it with you?
No. We met in college doing photography together, and life, we've just kind of put it on the side because of life going on. And he was doing his water picture of the day, and then he said, "Oh, I want to do this." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. It's a good creative outlet for him." And he's just kind of brought me along with it, and we kind of have fun together.
She encouraged it, but wasn't really an active participant. But then when I'm videoing, it's kind of hard not to get her in the picture. So it's like, for me to be talking and then have her kind of in the background, it didn't seem right. So I said, well, you're going to have to say something. So I would egg her on and tell her kind of basically, well, this is what I'd like you to say, or have a little bit more energy, because when you're doing video, and I feel when you're on that you have to project yourself and you have to engage people. So we worked on that, but then a lot of people really liked her more than me. so I'm the camera guy, I'm the editor and all that, but she brings in a really good element to our channel.
I think we try and bring humor to what we do, and just not extravagant humor, just simple everyday.
A lot of it's just our stupidity of ourselves, just tripping over each other. And then we find some comical thing, and like a blade of grass just happens to amuse us, or the way the thorn smacked you in the face or something. We make fun of stuff like that. So on the side chat, that's great. We got Tom, Donovan, Brent's there, Jason's there, Geocaching with a Hailmeister. Hi guys. Cache line, Jeff's in.
Hello.
There you go. So now you need to ask the guy downstairs something. How did he get involved?
Your turn. You're ready to face the world. How'd you get into geocaching and then the whole YouTuber experience as well? So
me?
Yeah.
Okay. My wife started geocaching with the kids. I think it must have been about 2007 or 8 or something like that. I don't know, but I think it was exactly the Garmin navigating in the car. And so somehow they figured out they would, print stuff out and they would walk around in the woods. And so it wasn't until 2016, we were up in the mountains of Tennessee on spring break, and we had an extra day, and my daughter said, "Hey, let's go geocaching." And boom, I was hooked. I mean, just completely hooked. I've been really a cyclist all my life, and so the synergy with cycling, and I've traveled internationally for 20 something years now for my job, and the synergies between all those things just really fit. And so that's what really started me into geocaching. Regarding YouTubing, I guess I kind of backed into that. When I first started week-long bike tours, things like that, I created a blog, and it was called BikeLaneEnds. That's where the name of the channel came from. And then so I was blogging my tours and letting my family keep up with me day by day. And then a colleague and we went on a hike across and back the Grand Canyon, and I created some videos during that to augment my blog. And so that's when I created my YouTube channel by the same name. And then I don't know, I think it was 2018 that I think I was, I don't know where my first videos were. No, I think my first videos were around here, but somehow I just said, hey, let's just make.
Well,
who knows?
the Grand Canyon, someplace we haven't been yet, and that's one of the places we want to go.
We were close. We could see the edge. When we
I
were
know what
in
you mean.
we got
Yeah.
there when it was closing.
We didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
We're going to go
We-
on a full trip of it.
We hiked it over 4 days,
Mhm.
2 days across, 2 days back. But that was before I was geocaching. I've done so many things before and been so many places before I was geocaching, which that drives you crazy, right?
Yeah.
But that same colleague and I, he now lives in Seattle, and he and I were chatting back and forth, and we kind of challenged ourselves. We did it 2 days each way, and along the way, you know, we thought we were really badasses, right? Because we were, you know, back these day runners that were actually doing the entire 46 miles out and back in one day.
Oh, gee.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of crazy. In 2018, we kind of challenged each other. At least he told me he was going to take his sons out there, and he challenged me. Well, how about we just do it one day back? And so I said, okay, and started training for that. But we had quite the wet spring, and during my training, I ended up breaking my wrist, having to have surgery and
Wow.
all that. But I'll get back and do that. There's a 5.5 virtual there, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want that bad.
Yeah. We want to do a trip there. We want to go around the Grand Canyon. So from Las Vegas, go north and all the little parks around it. So not just do the Grand Canyon, but that would be the main focus of the trip, is do all the different spots you can hit and then go in and do whatever, as much as you can. So,
yeah. Hey, that reminds me. A whole bunch of guys here were planning to do the ET highway. And we have been talking about it since last fall.
Yeah.
And somehow I scheduled too much stuff in the first quarter of the year. And so
we do that.
Right. And so it came into bad timing. They were planning for April. And so I had to back out of it. But now it's all postponed to October.
Yeah.
So I think I can get in on it now.
Yeah, and we don't know now. We were supposed to go to West Virginia in April, canceled. Washington D.C. in May, canceled. Our Ireland trip just got canceled, and that was in July. And so now we're looking at Geo Woodstock in August.
We'll
I don't know. So yeah, we're not making any plans.
I know what you mean. I've already got the tickets for the big community celebration and Geo Woodstock, all of that business out there.
Yep. So, the question some Hailmeister asked about the guitars that you have behind you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I've played guitars since I was 13. I played in a blues band in the turn of the century. I was a music director at a rock and roll church for 7 years here.
And then, what's the biggest injury you guys have had while geocaching on a trip?
That's a good question, and they're all her.
Thanks.
2. I don't think. Well, no, I've scraped myself. That's about it.
I broke the bone of my ankle,
your fibula,
just above where the bone.
Yeah, we fibula not.
Yeah, just above the ankle.
Yeah.
And then I broke my wrist.
And the fibula was a geocaching outing for the day, and we were just coming back to the car, and she stepped over a guardrail.
Yeah.
And when she landed, her ankle snapped.
Yeah.
And she broke her.
I have never broken anything. That was my very first break, and it was really kind of a goofy
And 2
thing.
years after that, we were on Peely Island in Lake Erie, and she slipped on the rocks.
I was barefoot, and there was green slime, and I was trying to be really careful, but I put one foot on, and my feet went from under me, and I was down, and
The only thing I've ever done is like sliding or falling out of a tree, scraping your skin, along the bark, and
breaking your phone.
Well, breaking my phone, but and sliding down a hill. We were geocaching with our daughter in Toronto. I slid down a hill, and it was thankful the tree was there to stop my fall. So it was basically bruising my ribs. I a couple of times probably bruised my ribs. And not broken, I'm just bruised.
But other than that, we've been fairly lucky.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't overturned a canoe or, you know, been lost, been punctured.
Neil says, boo, Dave, bad joke. She put out a cache by that name. We fibula not.
That's right.
And it's in a guardrail.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's it.
Any nasty injuries, though?
How about you guys? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I average about a bike crash every 2 years, usually resulting in pretty good road rash. And I don't know if you could say that's a geocaching injury. I usually try to find one geocache while I'm riding. But really, I think while we were doing the whole mystery, and in one of my videos, no. It was last fall. I think I was out filming a bunch of FTFs in a nearby city, and I somehow cut my finger. I was bleeding all over the place, and it got into the video a little bit. That's the worst I've had, really, geocaching.
Me, I got stung by probably like 28 yellow jackets.
Yikes!
Going after a parking garage behind a building.
Yeah. Oh.
Yikes!
On a rotted log, and they all came flying out. It was actually during the Mystery Museum thing as well. So.
Oh, really? Oh.
I skid to the cat behind the tree. I went to reach. I stepped on the log, and I started falling on the ground. Erin didn't know why because my legs pretty much gave out on me, and all of a sudden she started getting stung, and she's like, "Come on!" And I started running. I was hurting bad.
Ooh! Wow!
Good thing you're not allergic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
Running, and we were probably a good 50 miles from home. So when she was driving, I could feel the heat sensation going up my body from the stings. So
yeah. Huh.
And then as of Erin, she actually had a guardrail incident as well. And we were just catching simple, and she hopped over a guardrail, and the guardrail bit her foot. And
see, it's the guardrails.
Guardrails. Yeah, they're killers.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
In Georgia, I don't know how much you are, Del, but when you're in a guardrail hiding or hunting during the summer, don't step over the guardrail because you're going to burn yourself pretty good.
That's true. Yes, wear long pants. Yeah.
Forgot
about that.
Hey man, hey y'all! I do 90% of my cycling in spandex shorts.
Oh.
90% of my geocaching. Sorry.
Yeah, we tried geocaching cycling when we were in PEI.
Yeah,
it worked okay. I didn't get some really good footage of when we slammed into each other.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
She stopped on the trail, and I had my camera in one hand, the phone in the other, trying to hang on to the handlebars, and I was looking down, trying to see how far we had to go. And the next thing I know, I saw a bike stationary in front of me, below the handlebars. Wham!
Yikes!
Ass over tea kettle.
I flew.
Yep. I saved the camera. I'm on the ground with the camera up in the air. I got the camera. It's good.
Oh, you saved the camera. See?
Yeah. The first thing I did was, camera's okay. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Well, you did one thing wrong there.
Oh.
The first thing is the bike okay?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the third thing I looked at.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Bike, camera, Karen, bike. Bike was okay.
Yeah. Bike okay? Is anything broken? All right.
Yeah. I still have a nice big scar from a rebar pull. Ow.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Ow. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, why do you have rebar? Push.
How do you guys planning your trip, like skill wise and hotels? Do you guys just go by where you drive, or do you have all planned out pretty much day by day, or how does that work?
What was the question? Sorry, I was listening to the dog.
When you guys plan your trips out, like you plan your big North America trip, like that you just came back from, like do you have it day by day planned out, or is it more let's go by where we end up at the end of the day?
No, that was the trip that we just did, and we did it in February, and that's coming out regularly right now. So this coming week is it. This Saturday and Wednesday takes a hiatus from that because we did a video on an adventure lab that somebody wanted us to put out. So that's coming out tomorrow. And then Wednesday we'll have a 1 minute Wednesday because I had from home because I had a bit of a gap in there. I can't get a 1 minute. If I try to pull the 1 minute Wednesdays we shot ahead, then they get kind of goofy out of order. I try to keep things that we do in the order that we do them along the trip. But we had specifically planned this road trip to specific destinations each day. So the main target of this road trip that we did was the webcam in Mississippi. We had done that one 4 years before, but there was a stipulation that I didn't read the cache page. I didn't read the description, and it said you had to phone. Well, when I got home and I'll leave a more complicated cache till when I get home, where I need to upload pictures and stuff like that. So it was not until I got home I realized we didn't do a very specific requirement. And I thought I could kind of slip it through, and my log got deleted within a day. And the CO actually contacted me and said, hey, you didn't do what was in the cache description. And I said, hey, do you have any idea how far I drove? He didn't care. And I was mad at the time, but I understood, I didn't do what was required. So I just said, someday we'll go back. So that was where we had to get to. So if you take the distance from London, Ontario, where we live, to that webcam, and you kind of look at what you could drive between the two, where would you naturally stop? So we set it up to stop in a night in Louisville and then a night in Nashville. And then we wanted to make sure, and we wanted to make sure that we spent a full day somewhere. We weren't always driving. It was a very long trip, and we almost always ended up with late nights. It was a lot later than we ever wanted to. The couple that was with us, the Blue Quasar and Outsiders 2, they're used to more when you get near dinner or dark, they stop and then they relax. Well, I wanted to do that. We had some really nice Airbnbs that we stayed at. We just couldn't enjoy them as much as we'd have liked to. So we did Louisville and Nashville for a day, which that came out last Saturday. That was an awesome day, even despite the rain. And I think the rain actually made that video a lot more enjoyable to put together. And then we lost time. We did get to see the Space Center. The Space Center will come up, but I'll use that footage as part of, there's a TV hotel that's nearby. So I'll use the footage from the Space Center to flesh that 1 minute Wednesday out a little bit.
You're talking about Huntsville Space Center?
Huntsville Space Center. We walked the grounds. We had that day that we had, I had plotted it out. We were leaving Nashville to go to Huntsville to get an earth cache and then end up in Mississippi. And I knew it would be a really long day, and there was no time to mess around. When we stopped, and I made sure everybody knew, we stopped, we're on a mission, we're stopping at this cache, it takes this long, and we got to go. And then somebody asked, hey, can we stop at the Jack Daniels distillery?
Lynchburg.
Of course we can. That'll be a video, so we made a video, but I knew as soon as I added that, the rest of it would fall apart. There was no way I could fit everything. And I had, leaving Nashville, I had one TB hotel. It was the largest TB hotel in the world or something.
The one near Murfreesboro?
Yeah, it's south of Nashville.
Yeah, in Murfreesboro, yeah.
Really cool spot. We have a place, it's not a TB hotel, but we have a place just like it right here.
Yeah.
It's a little shack. You draw on the walls, that's your log.
That TB hotel that you mentioned here in Huntsville, that one's on the campus of the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Yeah, that's a good friend of mine, Gray Bat. Yep.
So we got that one, but there was 2 earth caches we were supposed to do that day. We got one of them, which is good. That was on our list to do because of the rating. We didn't have that rating yet. The other one, which the arches, we have to come back to. It just by the time we got to the Space Center, it was already closing. So we walked the grounds and we did all the caches that were around there, and then moved on. But we did manage the next day. The next day, it was like, okay, can we come back to the earth cache near Huntsville? Well, no, because if we do that, then it messes up. Everything was timed pretty tight to where we were going and what we were doing.
For our trips.
But the next day, we were meeting Geocaching Katie's parents. for dinner.
Hmm.
And it was very tight. And I knew we had to get across Alabama to where they live in Georgia. And we had a specific, and I'm like, we've been pushing this every single night. We're always late. And I said, I can't be late. So I said, no, I have to scratch that earth cache and just carry on. And that day actually went the best of all of them. And we met Geocaching Katie's Stephen and Angela and had a great dinner together. We did a live interview, which we have already posted. And we have a 1 minute, we have a 1 minute Wednesday coming up that we did with it. It's not their cache.
Oh,
It was close by. So
man, I bet y'all passed within 2 miles of me when you came through Huntsville.
Probably, and we didn't know. Now that we know, when we come back, so we have to come back. That earth cache that we missed, I think there's only 4 of them in North America, and it's the closest to us actually that we could get to easily. The other one is not so bad, but would have to fly to San Francisco and then drive to Reno.
Well, that Arches cache, I have it's pretty because you're talking about the natural bridge in Bankhead Forest, right? Yeah, because you can't do it from above. You've got to find your way down.
You've got to go down. So you need to give it a whole day. Yeah.
Exactly.
As soon as we got late in the day, and I'm like, there's no way, because the coordinates are above. And he talked about it in the description. You have to figure out how to get underneath it. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to get there in March, the dark. Well, we got it. The other one was, what was it? Stone Cuts. It's east of Huntsville, not too far. It's near the oldest multi in Alabama. It's in that same forest. That one was easy. It was like a slow incline down, and then you slow incline up. But the hardest part to do it right was to actually answer the questions. And you had to not just answer questions. You didn't answer the question and send it to the CO. You answered questions on the 5 pictures that you uploaded. So each picture had to have the description of the coordinates you took the picture from and what you had observed. So it was quite involved. I waited until well after I got home to log because I wanted to do it right. And there was only 3 of them. I think there's one of the same rating. There's one in Portland, Oregon. That's an 8-stage cache dealing with fossils on buildings. But that'll probably take you at least an hour. We might, if we get out there, we're going to try to do that one because we've learned what we do is earth caches now to do a fizzy grid completely of earth caches. But our friend Liz Downey has told us that, and we discovered this when we were on Geocache Talk. We were talking about it. There was one fella we found from Germany that had a complete fizzy grid of earth caches. And the next time I looked it up, he only had 80 out of 81. Because somebody somewhere, and our friend Liz Downey found it, somebody in Australia changed the rating of one of the earth caches that he had, which was very rare. And boom, that one disappeared. So in order to make sure when you're doing a fizzy like that's really rare, and you have to do 2 of each. So 2 of every single rating. So if somebody changes one, that's okay, still got it. So that was a long explanation for our road trip. And yeah, we whizzed through Alabama. We went straight through. We stopped at a few places. The highest favorited virtual at the airport, which is right today, is really simple. When it was originally posted, that one would have been a little harder to do because you didn't have GPS like you do today, like the car GPSs where it'll just tell you how to get there. You didn't have Google Maps to study to tell you how to get to that spot. So it would have been a little more difficult because you're getting, it's not a secure area, but it's inside of kind of a cargo area of an airport. But the rating today is too high for what it actually is. So we got that one. And we got.
But we don't want the rating to change.
No, because that's the only one in North America with that rating. And we did the multi, and it's called the Bitrack Dragon or something. It's a really involved multi. You got to go through a hotel and all these different steps, and then downstairs. It's really cool. And I asked the CO if I could video it and use it as a video, and he said yes. So it's coming out as a video as well. So all of the days, as I was going, I had a kind of an idea what we were going to see, but I didn't know how it was going to work in video form. So then I started looking as we went. Oh, I can use that as a video. Like when Wednesday's video came out was the Wigwam Village. So I knew, oh, that was going to be a 1 minute Wednesday. It just matter where I'm going to fit it in. So in my phone, I have a list. It's our production schedule. And I have that listed all the way now till pretty much the end of April is pretty much occupied with videos that have already been shot. And then I'll piece together and here and there things that we need to fill a spot or something like that. So always be aware.
Yes, we do have a trackable for the dog who was asking.
Yes.
It fell off his collar and it is sitting in our van, so I don't have it on me right now.
Hold
on. Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, hang on. Okay, go on to and ask another question, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Dale, you been to the distillery or no?
Otherwise, I can run out to the van.
What's that, Dan?
Have you been to the Jack Daniels distillery?
I have never been there. No, I live only 30 miles from it.
What's crazy about it is the first time we went up there, it was free. The only thing you had to pay for was the sampling. And now you have to pay, I think, almost $29 just to go through the distillery.
Won't list it for me.
Okay, I'll go get it. Okay. It's in the van.
About, the whiskey tour was actually pretty good. We enjoyed it. It was, I think it was $25 per person, and you got a taste. You got four different tastes of different kind of whiskeys. It was kind of cool. So, highly recommend it. It was awesome.
Ready, Dale?
Yeah.
How do you plan your trips? Like you just came back from that Midwest trip that you took for.
Okay, well, most of my trips are business trips. So, usually it just involves trying to eke out a few hours. Maybe I'll fly in somewhere on a Sunday and eke out a few hours there while I'm trying to get into whatever time zone it is, or, maybe I, after work or kind of, tack on a day. I did a series recently when I went to Belgium, and I did exactly that. I kind of flew in on a Sunday and had kind of an entire day, and so I just really had to hit the big highlights. And luckily, there were a couple of geocaches of the week there that really caught my attention, and so most of my trips are kind of like that. This one that I did was probably the first trip that I would really say was a planned geocaching trip. And it really, the thinking started last fall it's really about, I've got like some American airline miles that I need to burn or I'm going to lose them. And so I started thinking, how can I buy one trip and absolutely make the most of it, right? And some of my geocaching colleagues, we were chatting last fall, and trying to figure out, okay, can I fly to some corner where I can get a whole bunch of states at once, something like that. So it started last fall thinking about it. In January, I set some geocaching goals or geocaching resolutions, and I fired off. I set like 15 resolutions, and let's say there was a handful thinking about the whole 20th anniversary celebration, Geo Woodstock, Ape Cache, that kind of stuff. So I kind of was thinking along those lines in there, right? But that was a different trip. And it turned out that I had a business trip to Chicago. And so I just thought, holy cow, I had been thinking about me and my colleagues as we were chatting. I think flying into Chicago and then maybe flying out of Detroit and just kind of, nailing around, what's that, Lake Michigan up there? Just kind of doing a Lake Michigan trip and grabbing a bunch of states and a bunch of high value caches. And this business trip to Chicago popped up. And so I just kind of tacked on 3 days of leave to that, which with my company, you've got some kind of strict rules. Once you tack on leave, then the whole trip kind of becomes really, really tightly regulated to make sure that, fair enough, the company's not paying for anything personal there, right? So, but anyway, so then it was just a matter of, okay, I've got 3 days, and it was really guided by a lot of those goals. Really, the oldest in state, collecting the state souvenirs. I wanted to grab a Canadian province since I was in Detroit. That was an opportunity. The only Canadian province I had prior was Quebec. And looking for webcams, looking for geocache of the week. Those are really my high points. Is really, it's those oldest in state. Of course, the state souvenirs, the webcams, and the geocache of the week. That's my top tier list, and I managed to find really a lot of interesting stuff in that arc to go after. And so I'm a bit of a planner, and so I did try to map it out. You spend 3 minutes here, and then it's going to take me X number of minutes to drive to the next one. I'm going to spend an hour hiking to that one and all this. But I knew it was going to be, you have to be a bit flexible. So I actually did not plan. I did not make any reservations ahead of time. I just, as I was nearing the end of the day, I got on hotels.com and just tried to find a place to stay. And, luckily it all worked out. I ended up, going from Chicago to Wisconsin, and then back down Chicago, through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, the upper part of Ohio, up to Detroit, popped over the Canadian border up there, which that was the first time I've actually ever driven across the Canadian border. That was kind of weird.
Across Detroit is when you go across to Detroit, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And it's really funny. I get asked more questions at the Canadian border than I do, almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
it's really pretty wild. Yeah, and of course the Canadian passport control, whatever you guys call them. I think it was a woman, and she asked me, what are you doing? And I just told her, hey, I'm popping over to find a few geocaches, and then I'll be right back. She didn't know what it was. And so I happened to have my GPS. I brought out my phone. I showed her all this stuff. And I said, look at all this. Look at all these little dots here. This is what I'm after.
Yeah, we're trying to educate the border people so that when you say geocaching, they'll be, oh, okay.
Yeah, we get to the border at Port Huron, which is north of Detroit. And the guy asked, where are you going? I said, we're going to Grand Rapids. So what are you doing there? Well, we're geocaching. He goes, you don't have any good geocaches in Canada? Not like what we want.
Yeah. Oh, that's the wrong way to look at it. Come on, man.
Yeah, they have a lot of challenge caches.
Well, we were
Grand
after
Rapids.
an event that day.
Yeah, and craft beer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
So
I didn't get as far up north as Grand Rapids, but
there's a question from Neil Moore. He says, "Did you get the crappy cache?" We got that one.
It's really good.
Michigan.
Yeah, I don't know what the crappy cache is. Where is that?
Yeah, it's it's on one of our 1 Minute Wednesdays.
Yeah.
It's a shed that's like a toilet, like an outhouse. Yeah, so it's called the crappy cache. Yeah, it's an
What city is it in?
She's right on the border.
I don't remember. Let's look it up.
It's kind of halfway. It's more towards Illinois. T. Samola did it as well. He did a video on it as well.
Okay. I think I didn't do much in Michigan. I think I did a few down near the Ohio border, and then I stayed in Michigan, kind of south of Detroit, and then first thing I went over to Canada the next morning. But there was a geocache of the week in Detroit, and that was I don't know. I get really excited about those things. So That was what I really focused on Detroit. And then it started snowing on me.
Oh.
And okay, I grew up in Nashville, and I grew up with a lot of snow. But in Alabama, for the last 32 years, we've hardly had any snow. I do not like driving in it. And so, man, I just hightailed it back to Chicago to catch my flight.
It snowed on us in Las Vegas. It snowed on us in North Carolina.
Holy cow. That's crazy.
Vicksburg, Michigan.
Be
Neil
careful to think that we're bringing the snow down there.
Neil Moore said it's in Vicksburg, Michigan, wherever that is.
Oh, never heard of that. Yeah. Of course you're bringing the snow down.
Indiana and Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, kind of right where a little bit east of where they meet, kind of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
What else? There's another question here.
Well, we were gonna. Somebody asked if we had a log for the dog, and we do.
And we do. Here it is. So you can log Blake. There's Blake's TV thing. You can write that down. GS6XKB. Because I don't think you're going to be able to read that.
No, it's fallen off, so we have to get a new.
There you go. That's Blake.
New ring for it.
We'll show that again later.
Hey, somebody else says yikes. So apparently, it's not just my experience. Yeah.
And somebody asked a question: does Karen make the Nimo bars? No.
No, I don't make those. I do make butter tarts.
Butter tarts. That's Canadian. Yeah.
Butter tarts.
Butter tarts? Oh, a butter tart is basically what
Sugar.
I think it's just a pecan pie in a tart. It's just a pecan pie.
Butter, sugar, eggs, and corn syrup.
And then you can put pecans in it or raisins or whatever in a tart.
See down here, those are called chess pie.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
It's Canadian.
We have butter tart festivals, and you can get all.
What did you say, Dan? Were you?
I've never heard of any of that, but I'm not either.
You've never heard of chess pie?
No.
Really?
Come on.
You guys are in the. Oh, no, he's from Buffalo, so he wouldn't know.
Oh.
I've never heard of chess pie.
Yeah, neither have I. Huh. And the Nanaimo bars. I didn't know Nanaimo bars were Canadian. What do I know? I grew up just across the river from Buffalo, where Dan grew up. And my mother is American, and so I have relatives that were in Niagara Falls and Kenmore, New York, and because we were so close to the border, I had a lot of American influence, and we grew up with American television. We couldn't get Canadian TV because the Niagara Peninsula blocked the signal from Hamilton and Toronto, so we never watched. And Karen, it was the same way. She got a lot of her TV from Detroit.
Well, we had a mix. We had Canadian. We just had not rabbit ears.
The tower antenna.
The antenna, yes. And whatever it could pick up was what we got. And we got Detroit, and we got Kitchener and Hamilton.
We could get Hamilton, which is the other end of the lake by Toronto, with snow. And it was in the middle of July, and you'd have snow. I mean, snow on the screen. It'd be like, turn the antenna. It's like, oh, I got Hamilton. There was nothing to watch, but whatever.
Hey, why didn't y'all tell me that Crappy Cache was a geocache of the week? I see Neil Moore says that, and I've actually got a map of all the of all the geocache of the week.
Oh.
Doggone it! I could have gotten that because that was.
So, is there a website for that? For the week?
No. I created a map in Google Maps.
Oh, okay.
Where I've kind of put pins for all the oldest in states, the webcams, the geocache of the week, just all the stuff that I care about. So if I'm headed somewhere, then I can consult that map. But if I didn't catch that, I think that's almost the trip that I took. Yeah, I took back from Detroit to Chicago was right along that.
Yeah, right along Ohio. Turnpike is right at the top of Ohio. It goes right past Midwest Geocache.
Well, it looks like it's on. It looks like it's on that. It's right on that 94 corridor. Yep. So it looks like it's south of Kalamazoo. I could have gotten that. Doggone it.
Yeah. That's one thing that I've never really looked up is geocaches of the week, although I've found them, but only when I look at it's a high favorited cache. I look up the listing and it says this was a geocache of the week. Like Tin Man that we did in New York State, that was a geocache of the week. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never even thought of looking them up. That's a good idea.
Yeah, the first one I bumped into by accident. I was I have some software development teams in India, and I've got a very, very small team in Paris. And so early last year, I was visiting them and just do a bit of geocaching in central Paris. And I saw a really high favorited one. I think it was called Eiffel Power. And you actually had to climb up into a tree, which was a little bit scary. It took me a few minutes to steel my nerves to climb up in that tree. But once I did that, I was completely hooked. And now I have to look for them wherever I go.
Was that in Texas?
No, that was Paris.
Oh, in Paris. Okay. Yeah, there's a cache in Texas, was Eiffel Tower, highly favorited. When we were in Texas, it was disabled.
Yeah, this was called Eiffel Power. It was right. I mean, it was right below. I mean, you don't believe it. You're right in the same park as the Eiffel Tower, but you kind of have to hop this little fence and then climb up a tree. And you think, okay, well, for sure the gendarmes are gonna.
Yeah, we did that one. Yeah.
And oh yeah, that's a geocache of the week. That one's amazing. The little birdhouse.
Yeah,
that's
we did that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, security is going to get you. How do you get this one without being? Yeah. We've done that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was tempted to wear a yellow vest so I would attract their attention and they could just beat the crap out of me.
Good idea. Yeah, when we geocached in, I wish we were vlogging that, but we geocached in London, England, and every single cache description said, be very careful. Don't make yourself look like you're being stealthy because they will come at you. And I'm like, oh, okay, they're watching. There are cameras everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Screaming Skulls near Berks Falls is a geocache of the week. Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. We did a video on that one.
Yeah, we talked to the artist.
Jeff, I don't think he did yet.
So speaking of run-ins with, maybe we could talk about run-ins with law enforcement on these trips.
Could be one of my questions I was going to ask you guys if you ever ran into the law while
Yeah. So I was going to get that oldest cache in Illinois, Beverly.
Yeah.
Or Beverly, right? And it's kind of in a big. I think it's in a big park. Yep. And I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I took I found a little road that was close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a dead end. And so I went down that dead end and I kind of pulled into a little turnoff that was at the dead end. And so I was sitting there gathering and sure enough, law enforcement, this guy comes down and gets out of his car and walks over to me. And I said, dude, I'm really not doing anything nefarious at all. I'm geocaching, and he didn't know what that was. I couldn't believe it. Every Leo in my city knows what geocaching is because they've encountered us so much. But this guy didn't know what it was, so I had to explain all that. And so apparently, this parking location that I was in, he said people pull in either to take drugs or have sex. So I had to convince him, look, I'm just a nerd out geocaching, and I'm going to be in and out of here without causing any trouble. And he said, and I asked him if there was any, other place I should park. And he said, well, you're supposed to, over here. But I said, look, I'm going to be in and out of here in 20 minutes. He said, all right, just hurry it up. Just do it.
We got a parking ticket there. We were on Yeah, at Beverly. We were on the west side, and there was
Oh,
two
I was
poles.
on the east.
Yeah, you were on the east. Yeah, and there was a
Yeah.
chain across the road, but the chain was low and droopy. So I just drove across it. I thought, I'll just go up there. There's no big one. We'll never get it. And I saw the
No
no
big
parking,
deal.
but I parked. I come, and we had my mother with us, and she's in her late 70s at the time, and we brought a chair with her to sit down in every now and then. So I'm like, I had to get close. I didn't want to. It was a long way to walk just to get in there. So
From the west.
and it was $40 for the parking ticket. I paid it, it's no bill. So that was an expensive cache at Beverly. It was $40. So
Yeah, much longer.
Yeah.
That cache actually caused a little bit of controversy on Facebook because one of my good friends, the highest cacher in Alabama, Caver Scott, he and a friend had just gone up there in November. And I remember they posted on Facebook, here we are with Beverly, oldest cache in Illinois, here it is, right? Ammo can.
Yeah.
And then I get there.
It's not.
And, no, it's not an ammo can. It's a big plastic jug. And so I post this photo on Facebook, and then all of a sudden he's in there. I think you got the wrong cache.
No.
So I was terrified because I was in such a rush. I had the encounter with law enforcement, right? And so I ran the trails and I ran back, and I'm thinking, could I have possibly gotten the wrong cache? But I looked at the EXIF data on the photo that I took, and it was within 30, 40 feet.
Yeah.
And finally, when I had time to sit down and investigate it, I looked through all the logs, and it was like just, a week or two after they had found it, somebody had come along and, just found it full of water and changed out the container. So turns out everything was okay. But, one of those geocaching dramas, right?
Yeah. We had an encounter with a police officer early on. We were geocaching, and I was looking for a cache on a pole, and a car pulled in behind ours, and Karen was sitting in the car, and she's laughing, and I'm like, oh, and the guy was beside her asking her what we were doing.
I wasn't laughing then.
No. And then he pulled in behind our car, and then I'm like, oh my God, he's writing down our license plate. So I'm like, we're going to get a call from the police. So I told him, we're not doing anything. We're just geocaching. That guy was not interested in my explanation.
Well, there was
whatsoever.
A gas line there, and he thought we were trying to steal the copper pipe.
Yeah. So he worked for Union Gas, and he thought I was monkeying with it. And I go, whatever. Okay, fine. We're not doing anything. I said, we got to go. And then we're driving, and we went caching for the rest of the day. And I said, sure as anything, there's going to be a cop sitting in the driveway when we get home. Well, there wasn't. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm logging the caches on the computer, and then there's a knock on the door. And I'm like, oh, I know what that is. So I grab Blake up under my arm, and I open the door, and there's an officer standing on the front step. And I go, hello, officer, come on in. I know why you're here. And he's like, you do? And I said, yeah, we were geocaching. He goes, oh, is that what it was? So he sat down on the couch, and he's like, yeah, we looked at your profile. I go, I got a profile? He said, well, from my information of who I am and where I live and where I work, they said it didn't seem like I was a copper thief. That's what they thought I was doing, was stealing copper. And I'm like, no, I was geocaching. They'll say, okay, I know. You just have to call this number and explain to the officer at the desk what you were doing. Everything's fine. The guy apparently worked for Union Gas, and he thought I was stealing copper. I'm like, no.
You didn't even have anything in your hand to do that.
And the only other time we had a police officer was in Texas, a state trooper, and he stopped and he thought I was too close to the road. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll move the car. He goes, yeah, okay, have a good day.
No, the other time was near where we live. We were out geocaching, and there was a tree, and it had all this plastic wrapped around it. We're like, well, that's odd. Why would somebody wrap plastic around a tree?
Yeah.
So we go into the wooded area. It's behind a store. And then Dave's like, we got to get out of here. And it's like, why? And he said, there's these little plants in rows in a big area.
Oh, I know what that is. Yeah.
A grow up.
So we hightailed out of there.
Yeah.
And
It was all this long grass, and then suddenly there was an area of about 6 by 12 feet, a rectangle with these plants in it. And well, I walked right through. I didn't even think anything of it. And then I went through the grass, and then I hit another one, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And it was all fertilizer all around the plants, and I'm like, oh my God, if I'm standing here when the guy that put it in shows up, and then we realized what the bag was tied around the tree, so they can figure out where to go in. So I called the police, and I said, told them all about it. And then they called back and they said, we can't figure out where this is. Can you come and show us? So I did. I showed up, and they're walking through the bush, and then the guy pulls out his little folder and he says, can you tell me what you were doing?
We did give them the GPS.
Yeah.
We did give them the GPS coordinates too.
So.
We
yeah, and I had to tell the CEO about it too. That cache is still there. I don't know about the pot, but anyway, we have a friend of ours as a police officer, and they said all they'll do is they'll take a flamethrower out and just flame it out. There's such a big problem with that. I said, can't do surveillance and see the guy come back? No, they just blow it all away. That's I think the second time, maybe the third time we found that substance while we've been geocaching. There was one other time I was in behind a tree, and it was like a bunch of plants growing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was.
You can grow it legally in Ontario, just not in a field or behind your house. You have to have a big greenhouse and lots of money.
We've had a couple incidents with the police. We were on a power run with a couple of friends of ours, actually in Tennessee near Nashville. I don't know if it's still there, but is it? Well, we were caching, and there was another group ahead of us, and they pulled us over, and we had Colorado plates on our car because we were running a car when we went. And here I'm in the back seat with little pill bottles. You're doing a power run.
Not suspicious at all.
Pulls us over, and he wants to know, what are you doing back there, sir? And they're thinking we're storing drugs all along this highway for the jail people to pick up when they lift the highway.
Drug drugs.
Was it the state patrol?
Yeah.
Because what's so great about all the highway patrols in the South is every officer is like 7 feet tall, right? With that Smokey Bear hat.
Yep.
And the second time I had a run-in was I was putting out a cache for the highest finder in Georgia, and I was putting out their 30,000 fine. And it was a cache with a pole, and it was a crazy cache. You had to open. It actually had a pole, and it had 2 boxes on it. And you opened up the one box, and it had a string with a pole. And what you did is you put the pole in the top of the hole, in the hole on the box, and you had to go around in a circle. And you found a cache container. And the cache container gave you the combination to a lock that was for the other box. And it was around 30 K, so you had to go in a circle to find that stuff. And when I got back in the car, I was making the cache page, and a cop pulled up behind me, and he actually said he had probable cause to search the car, so they searched the car. And I was telling them I was geocaching. I showed them everything on my phone. All they like, well, we still have probable cause. These people back here are doing drugs. They're doing this. They're doing that. And probable cause that you're doing it too. So.
Wow.
And then I had my incident in Buffalo at Central. I don't know if you guys have that cache or not yet. Buffalo Central. There's a micro there. It's actually on one of my videos. I was searching for it, and somebody seen me searching over there, and these are redoing the whole building. They thought I was going in to vandalize, so they called the police on me. Once I told them I was looking for, they were like, "Oh, what is that?" They want to know what it was about, but I had to leave because they were staring there to make sure I wasn't going to do anything stupid. But
we've been into a few old buildings that are like, oh my gosh, it's like somebody put a geocache in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, because some of them look like they're about to fall down. But
well, a lot of places that you go geocaching, you have to kind of think, did a township give permission to put a geocache there? No. We do go in some places that we probably shouldn't. It's a good adventure, makes for a good story, but it's in a gray area. We're just ignore that. Yeah.
I have some questions to ask you guys. You already answered one of the police questions, but if you could tell yourselves one thing from when you before you started caching, like if you had to tell yourself something when you first started geocaching, what would it have been?
We probably should have started sooner because we went to so many interesting places.
Yep.
I think that would be it.
And not be so critical. When I started geocaching early, and I think a lot of newbies or newer cachers get into this not knowing that on the other side of that cache placement is a person and a reviewer who work together to put that thing for you to find, and not knowing that. And it took me quite a while to realize that there are people involved, and you know that, but you don't think about it. So sometimes you'll get a log, and you'll know this person doesn't realize that there's somebody on the other side. Just be cognizant of that and be more like, like this person tried to do their best or did a really good job show appreciation that they did that. And even if it's a simple little cache, hey, they took the time to put it out there for you to go and have fun with,
Simple is good
Yeah.
sometimes, especially. There was one day I had 4 DNFs. It was a snowy day, heavy snowfall, and I had tried four caches, DNF. I got this telephone pole, and the cache was on the roadside of the telephone pole, right where I could see it. I gave it a favorite point. I got a cache for the day after
Yep.
4 DNFs. I was so happy.
Yeah. The snow is not your friend. There's a question from Brent for Dell.
I saw that. Yes, I know. I'm going to do it this weekend.
Okay.
Doggone it.
All right. Between work from home, you can get a video in. There you go.
Yeah. So if I could go back in time, obviously I've been to, so many different countries, every continent except Antarctica. So I really, lost a lot only starting 4 years ago. But if I could just go back to 4 years ago, I would really focus myself on, I don't know, I'm much more focused on some goals now. I didn't start looking at my geocaching calendar or my Fizzy Grid until really, really late. I didn't start looking for, things like oldest in state or geocache of the week until just recently. And I would have paid much more attention to that than just, simply numbers. And I remember, back in 2016, 2017, the first couple of years that I started, I did search for interesting caches, but I think probably nothing compared to what I would do today. It was just, more try to throw a net out and, find a bunch of caches. And today I would search, and I would probably be willing to go in a wider radius to get, higher quality experiences. That's really what I'm more about now than when I started.
And that's what we do, but we're lucky in our area. There are a lot of geocachers in Southern Ontario who have high numbers, but they target cache, and they target for, multiple different ways of challenge cachings and high DTs and high favorites. So we learned early on with that. And we got our Jasmer filled very, very early. We only had 3,500 or 4,000 caches at the time, but we had seen several people that we know that were in the 10,000 range got their Jasmer. We're like, well, what's that? So when we looked it up, we asked them what it was. And because we were traveling for reenacting, we were traveling like to Indiana, we were traveling to Maryland in that year. So I looked at what we needed for the Jasmer, and then I did road pocket queries on the road that we were going to. Show me every cache that is 2000 and 2001 within 5 miles of the road, and this is the route. So we ended up getting 25 caches on just 3 trips towards our Jasmine because of that.
Oh, wow.
But that
amazing.
came from knowing people in our area that did this kind of thing. And then we met somebody who is all about grid hunting, number of Fizzy grids and building that up. He has the highest number in Canada, and he's up there in the top 10 or something like that. So we learned from him as well, and other people. So we learned early on. We were really, really lucky that we did that.
The first challenge that I remember doing is trying to get a 2DT and a 2DT and two
terrain.
difficulty and two terrain.
Yeah.
And that was before one of the qualifications is you have to have, is it 2,000 caches?
Yeah.
So we started doing that, or I started doing that before I had 2,000 caches. So that was one of my first challenges. And I had the 2 rating before I had the 2,000 caches. So,
and we were able to do that. And now we've sustained that 2 difficulty, 2 terrain rating on our grid. People were trying to do it after they've hit 12 to 15,000 caches, but their rating was so low and they could not do a 1.5 cache. They could not do a 2 cache. They had to hit the very high difficulty caches all the time just to bring the rating up. We still were below, but it didn't take us as long.
Because now the numbers, the ratio of how many caches you'd have to get to bump it up are so high.
So it's like what you said, Del, if you just knew earlier, but we were gifted by the people that were around. Yeah.
Yep.
Either of you, when caching came up, somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Like, you're freaking somebody out like a mobile.
Yeah, and some people are like, "Yeah, that's cool," and other people are like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. We were out caching the other day, and we stopped. We drove by a winery, and it's open. There was nobody there. There's nobody out right now, but we're trying to keep our distance for everybody. But we thought, the place is open. They need business, so we went in. We kept their distance. They said that certain things aren't available. We bought 2 bottles of wine, and then the woman asked, "Well, what are you doing out today?" And I said, "Well, we're geocaching." "Well, what's that?" "Oh, well, we were there for 15, 20 minutes, just explaining what it was." And then we realized, hey, friends of ours have a cache just over here, but not right at that business. And they are really good at doing kind of themed caches. Yeah. So we said, hey, we know somebody that could put a cache here to help you. And they would have fun doing it. And we contacted them and they're like, yeah, we'd love it. So.
I did a series of caches. I went on the bike ride across Georgia last June. And you're there with several thousand cyclists, right? And you're all riding the exact same route across the state. And of course, I had mapped out, interesting caches along the way that I wanted to, try and stop and find out. But, that's an opportunity where you pull off the road, you're doing something, and you've got hundreds and hundreds of non-geocaching cyclists passing you by, and sometimes they say, "What the heck are you doing?" There was it was billed as the smallest church in America. I forget, it was somewhere in Georgia, and there was a cache there, really really cute little place, and there was a rest stop just next door, and so everybody was stopping next door, and everybody was coming over to this little church and getting their selfie taken in front of this tiny little church. And then right beside it, here am I'm rooting around in the woods. What are you doing over there, man?
Well, I have a good biking story for you. We I've been training the dog to run on his leash while we're biking, right? So we took him out on the trail, and he was running, and we'd stop at each cache, and we ended up, he was running for about 4 kilometers, which, that's huge for him because he's just not used to that. So Dave had brought a backpack, and by the time we're reaching the end of the trail, he was dragging behind, and he was like, so we put him in the backpack with his head sticking out. He was really adorable.
Zipped him up into the backpack. That was really cool. Got a good picture.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like,
and he was so tired. He's just so happy.
You guys are both YouTubers. How much footage do you usually shoot for a video before you edit it? The final product.
Couldn't hear you. Sorry.
How much footage do you search?
Video per week, whatever. How often? How much footage do you shoot prior to its final?
Oh,
not enough. Never enough.
It depends on the video.
Yeah, we did some today. We went out. If we go out today in London, we'll meet a lot of people, not a lot of people, but we have a trail right behind our house and we could go for a walk and back and not meet a lot of people. But we left the city and we went out into the country. We saw two people.
Two fishermen.
A kid fishing and the guy giving me gas. That was it. But
oh, we did see another fisherman.
we shot a video for one of the oldest caches in the province. It's the closest one to our house that we still haven't got. It's from 2001, April. And we didn't shoot enough still. I think there's always that B-roll you don't have enough of, or enough talking, or you don't pay attention to some detail. They're like, oh, I wish I had that. So you have to do some narration over top. But the trip that we did down south was I have a 64 gig card in the camera. It was the first time I filled it because I was near the end and I was trying to shoot something and the camera, the thing's not working. Then I realized, darn it, the card's full.
Fortunately, I had a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I frequently more. I don't know. I get wrapped up in the moment, and I'm not really my head's not in thinking about what I need to make the video later, and I always end up regretting that. I've kind of gotten in a mode where I do really more series, and I like to keep them extremely short. So I'm trying to create very compact videos anyway, but I mean, the last video that I did was a webcam in Hilton Head, South Carolina, a week or so ago. And I really regretted not doing a few more things. I was just so, caught up in the moment and having so much fun of the day. And I kind of blew it there, to be honest.
Was it the one by the restaurant or the one by, that's by, what's that restaurant called? I forgot.
Salty Dog Cafe. Yeah, that's.
Is that the one?
Okay.
Yeah, we did that one. Yeah. 4 years ago, 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son lives in Savannah, so we went down to visit him for a few days and looking for things to do. And so, I'm always willing to drive a bit to find some interesting geocaches.
Savannah has some really good caches. Ranger Dock has some pretty good caches down there in that area.
Oh man, I know. I still haven't figured out that gadget cache that's out by the lighthouse on Tybee Island. And the crazy thing is, I talked to him about it in geocaching, and he gave me a hint, and I forgot it. Oh.
He's always one to help people. So if you ever go back, I'm sure he'll help you. He's really.
Yeah, I'll be back. Like I said, my son lives there, so we go 2-3 times per year. Yeah.
The other questions I asked were the police, which you guys already mentioned. So a lot of the other two questions you already answered. So I'm not gonna have to ask those. So I hope you guys had fun on the show. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Great talking to you guys.
Yep. And
I enjoyed it.
Everybody over there in the chat room had a good time too. So.
All right. Well.
And thanks to Brent for reminding me. He's so funny.
All right, we're gonna sign off, people. So nice seeing you guys, and we'll.
All right. Thanks for having us.
See ya.
Take care.
Still on. Oh yeah, don't forget that.